What happens when a Hollywood star, known for his humor and humanity, faces a host who knows no boundaries in her provocations? This moment on The View went viral, sparking heated discussions on social media and dividing viewers' opinions. Adam Sandler, beloved by millions for his comedies and genuine charisma, came to the show to promote his new film. But no one was prepared for what happened next. This is a story about dignity, respect, and the strength to stay true to oneself under pressure. Introduction: a warm welcome and hints of a storm. The View studio buzzed with anticipation. The live audience, mostly women, clapped eagerly as Adam Sandler stepped onto the stage. His signature easygoing smile and relaxed stride in jeans and sneakers instantly drew a wave of applause. Sandler waved, cracked a joke about struggling to find parking in New York, and the crowd laughed. The atmosphere was warm, almost festive. The hosts, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, smiled as they greeted their guest. Cameras hummed, operators hurriedly focused on Sandler's face, and producers in the wings checked the script, preparing for a standard interview about Sandler's new comedy film. Adam sat in the guest chair, adjusted his microphone, and began talking about his project, a family comedy about parenthood and friendship. His voice was calm, laced with the humor his fans adore. He shared stories from the set, joking about his attempts to be a cool dad to his daughters, and the audience responded with laughter and applause. But Joy Behar, sitting across from him, had a sly glint in her eye. She flipped through her notes, her smile slightly strained. "This is going to be interesting," she whispered to Sunny Hostin, who nodded nervously, sensing Joy was up to something unexpected. Escalation, the first blow and an attempt to stay calm. The interview started with typical questions about the inspiration for the film, working with the cast, and funny moments on set. Sandler answered effortlessly, tossing in jokes that had the studio laughing. But a few minutes in, Joy Behar leaned forward, her voice sharpening and her smile turning sardonic. "Adam, you're known for your comedies, but let's be honest," she began, and the studio fell silent. "A lot of people say your movies are just silly jokes for teenagers. Have you ever thought about doing something more serious? Or are you just hiding behind humor to avoid real issues?" The audience gasped. Sarah Haynes shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing quickly at Whoopi Goldberg, who raised her eyebrows but stayed silent. Sandler froze for a moment, his smile fading, but he quickly regained his composure. His eyes narrowed, but his voice remained steady. "You know, Joy, I love comedies because they make people happy," he said, shrugging. "Life's already tough. If my movies help someone laugh and forget their problems for an hour, I call that a win." The audience erupted in applause, but Joy didn't back down. She leaned closer, her voice growing sharper. "That's sweet, Adam, but isn't that just a way to dodge responsibility? You're making millions filming childish jokes while the world's burning, wars, climate crises, inequality. Ever thought about using your platform for something more serious than another pizza comedy?" The studio went still. Operators scrambled to switch cameras, trying to capture Sandler's reaction. A producer in the wings whispered into a headset, "This is getting out of hand." Sarah Haynes tried to intervene, gently saying, "Joy, let's let Adam talk about his movie." But Behar waved her off, dismissing her colleague. Sandler clenched his fists on his knees, but his face stayed calm. "I respect your opinion, Joy," he said, choosing his words carefully. "But I believe laughter isn't an escape, it's strength. My movies aren't about ignoring problems, they're about giving people a break. And by the way, I support a lot of charities, I just don't shout about it at every turn." The audience clapped again, but Joy scoffed. "Charity? That's convenient, Adam. But don't you think your films glorify immaturity? You act like everything's fine when the world needs leaders, not clowns." The words hit like a slap. Sandler leaned forward, his voice firmer but still controlled. "Clown?" he repeated, a hint of irony in his tone. "You know, Joy, I think people who call others clowns are often too scared to laugh themselves. Maybe you should try it." The audience burst into laughter, but the tension in the studio grew. Whoopi Goldberg finally stepped in, trying to defuse the situation. "Okay, let's take a pause," she said, raising her hands. "Adam, tell us about your new movie. Any deeper messages in it?" But Joy interrupted. "Oh, I'm sure it's full of profound messages about pizza and socks." Escalation, tension reaches a peak. Sandler took a deep breath, his jaw tightening. The cameras zoomed in on his face, and viewers could see his eyes flash with anger, but he still held himself together. "Joy," he said quietly but with force, "I didn't come here to justify making people happy. If you don't like my movies, that's your right. But accusing me of being frivolous when you don't even know what I do off camera, that's low." The audience gasped, then erupted in applause. Some even stood, chanting, "Adam! Adam!" Sunny Hostin covered her face with her hand, clearly uncomfortable. Producers in the wings frantically exchanged gestures, one whispering, "If he walks, we're losing ratings." Operators struggled to keep both Sandler and Behar in frame, as Joy's smile now looked like a grimace. Joy, however, didn't relent. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Oh, Adam, don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying what a lot of people think. You make movies for kids but call it art. Isn't that a bit hypocritical?" This time, Sandler didn't respond immediately. He looked at her, then at the audience, and a flicker of vulnerability crossed his eyes. "You know, Joy," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I make movies for people who want to forget their problems for a moment. For parents who are exhausted. For kids who want to laugh. For people who've lost someone and need joy. If you think that's hypocrisy, maybe you just don't understand what joy is." The studio fell silent. Even Joy was momentarily speechless. Sarah Haynes quietly said, "Wow, that was powerful." But her voice was drowned out by the hush. The audience began to clap, softly at first, then louder, until the entire studio roared with applause. Sandler stood, removed his microphone, and placed it on the table. "I think I've said all I wanted to," he said, heading for the exit. Author's note. This is the first part of the story about the conflict between Adam Sandler and Joy Behar. In the next parts, we'll see how the climax unfolds, how the audience reacts, and what consequences this moment will have for both sides. What do you think about this conflict? Did Adam do the right thing by defending his work? Was Joy right to ask such tough questions? Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for the continuation. Adam Sandler vs. Joy Behar, a conflict that made television history, Part 2, after the tense moment when Adam Sandler removed his microphone and headed for the exit, the View studio erupted into chaos. But what happened next shocked everyone and cemented this moment in television history. This part of the story reveals the climax of the conflict, Sandler's emotional speech, and the aftermath that shook the media. Will Adam stay true to himself? And will Joy Behar manage to save face after such a turn of events? Climax. The moment of truth. The clatter of Sandler's microphone hitting the table echoed through the studio like a gunshot. The audience froze, with only a few whispering as they held up their phones to record the moment. Operators frantically switched cameras, trying to capture every move as Sandler walked slowly toward the wings. His face was a mix of anger and weary dignity, but he didn't look defeated. Joy Behar, for a moment, seemed to lose control, her eyes widening as she realized her guest was actually leaving the show. "Adam, seriously? You're just going to walk out?" she called, trying to regain the upper hand. Her voice was sharp, but there was a hint of panic in it. She stood from her chair, gesturing to the audience for support. "This is just a conversation. Can't you handle a simple question?" Sandler stopped. His hand was already on the door to the wings, but he slowly turned around. The studio fell silent again, broken only by the hum of cameras and the faint click of a producer's heels as they rushed to the director. Adam looked at Joy, then at the audience, and his eyes glinted. "A simple question?" he repeated, his voice quiet but cutting through the studio. "You call it simple when you accuse me of dodging issues? Of being a clown? You don't even know what I do for people, Joy. And honestly, it seems like you don't care. The audience erupted in applause, some standing from their seats. Whoopi Goldberg tried to intervene, raising her hands. Okay, let's all calm down. Adam, come back, we can talk. But Sandler shook his head. He took a step back toward the center of the stage, his posture straight, his voice firm but laced with pain. I didn't come here to be humiliated, he said, addressing not just Joy but the entire audience. I make comedies because I believe laughter heals. Do you know how many people write to me saying my movies help them through depression? Through losing loved ones? Through tough times? I'm not claiming to change the world, but if I can give someone an hour of joy, that's something. And you, Joy, call that frivolous? Maybe you should try making someone happy instead of looking for someone to tear down for ratings. The studio exploded with applause. Some in the audience wiped away tears, others recorded the moment on their phones. Sarah Haynes covered her mouth, clearly moved, while Sunny Hostin nodded as if agreeing with Sandler. Joy Behar, however, didn't back down. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, Adam, that's very touching. But let's be real, you just want everyone to love you. This isn't about joy, it's about your ego. That was a mistake. The audience booed Joy, and even Whoopi Goldberg shot her a sharp look. Sandler gave a small smile, not his usual wide grin, but a sad, almost ironic one. My ego? He asked. Joy, I'm not the one using this stage to seem smarter than everyone else. I came here to talk about a movie I made for people. You made this show about yourself. He turned and walked toward the wings, this time not stopping. The audience roared with applause, chanting his name. Producers in the wings scrambled in panic, one shouting into a headset. He's gone! What do we do? Cameras followed Sandler as the door closed behind him with a quiet click. Finale. The studio in shock. The studio was left in chaos. Joy Behar sat, lips pursed, her face a mix of anger and humiliation. Whoopi Goldberg took the floor, trying to salvage the situation. Okay, we'll be back after the break. That was unexpected. But her voice trembled, and it was clear even she was shaken. Sarah Haynes and Sunny Hostin exchanged awkward glances, while the audience buzzed, discussing what had just happened. Some viewers were already posting clips on social media with hashtags like #AdamSandler and #TheView. In the wings, Sandler was met by his agent, who looked both worried and proud. You were incredible, she whispered. But this is going to be all over the news. Adam just shrugged, his face still tense. I just told the truth, he said quietly. Epilogue, a viral moment and questions for viewers. By the end of the day, clips of Sandler's appearance flooded social media. On X, the moment went viral, with thousands of comments splitting into two camps. Some praised Sandler for his sincerity and defense of his work, while others accused him of being overly sensitive. The media picked up the story, with headlines like, Adam Sandler storms off The View after heated clash with Joy Behar, and, Did Joy Behar go too far? Some critics called Joy's behavior unprofessional, while her supporters argued she was just doing her job, asking tough questions. For Sandler, the moment was a turning point. His speech about the value of laughter and joy resonated with fans, many of whom shared stories on social media about how his films helped them through tough times. Meanwhile, Joy Behar's reputation took a hit, with some accusing her of using her platform to humiliate guests for ratings. What do you think about this conflict? Did Adam Sandler do the right thing by defending his work and dignity? Was Joy Behar right to ask such provocative questions? And most importantly, does laughter and joy hold the same value as serious activism? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this.